Today we're going to be looking at the Dell OptiPlex 7070 Ultra. So this is an all-in-one offering from Dell, so it's a home desktop computer, and this monitor stand which I'm holding right now actually includes the CPU device inside. So let's open it up and look at it in a little bit more detail. At the top, you can see the power button and some air vents. And that air vent part of the design extends to the sides as well. You can also see USB and some other connections, including a headphone connection on the side. Let's open up the CPU and look at the internals. With the upper hatch now popped off, let's look at the internals. On the sides, you see the design for the air vents, etc. On the rear, the mount, which has some amount of movement in it. And now looking at the other side, you could see it's quite slim. This area enclosing the CPU, memory, etc. The ports that we looked at before. The Windows sticker for an authentic copy of Windows. And connected to the internal USB is an adapter for Bluetooth. So this is for the keyboard and mouse to connect. Let's take a quick look at the tiny Bluetooth adapter. The internal USB ports include Type A as well as Type C. Next, let's look at the base stand. So this is where the monitor arm or the CPU connects. Let's demo that. As you can see, that's the area for the stand to go into the base plate, and that's how it fits in. Of course, at the bottom of the base plate, there are tightening screws to make sure that the connection is tight. The base plate is also well weighted to be able to hold up the entire monitor and CPU unit. Now let's take a quick look at the included mouse and keyboard. So both of these are Bluetooth and wireless. The keyboard is light, and it's a full-length keyboard with a numpad and all the usual keys. The mouse as well is pretty straightforward. Left and right click and a center scroll wheel. Moving on. Next, we look at the documentation. So what's nice is that a full set of documentation is included. You don't need to go online to look at the manuals. As you can see, there are quite a few. First off is a detailed instruction guide which talks about all the components. There is also a warranty card in multiple languages, and most importantly, a detailed assembly guide, as the unit will come disassembled and the customer is expected to assemble it. Lastly is a VESA mounting guide for wall mounting the monitor if you choose to do that instead. This is the included VESA mounting plate. So it's a steel plate that's again well weighted and can hold up the weight of the monitor. This would be required to connect the monitor and wall mount it. Included are some screws for the connection. Let's get that out and look at it. So that's the steel plate. So it's worth noting that the monitor does not come included with this kit. You need to purchase it separately. Assuming you do, you will get a secondary stand and base plate for the monitor. This looks very similar to the other one, just that it's a little slimmer as it does not include a CPU unit inside. It's also built smart, so it can only be mounted one way. As you can see, it's not fixing now, but turn it around to the right direction and there you go, it slots in perfectly. Lastly, let's look at the Dell monitor that was sent as part of the test unit. As mentioned, this is sold separately. The unit we're looking at is a 24-inch unit, and at the bottom is the connectivity. Let's take a quick look at that. You'll see a combination of display ports, HDMI, and some vents for cooling. The square surface at the rear is for the mount for the stand. Let's quickly see how that would work. Just slot that in there and that's how it holds up the monitor. So lastly, let's look at the included kit. So there's quite a bit of cables. Let me set them all out before we talk through each of them. So it's a combination of power cables as well as some input cables for the video. Alright, so going through the set, you see two power connectors. So these are for the monitor and CPU respectively. The third is a power brick, which is for the CPU unit. It hooks up to the CPU and connects to the wall socket on the other side. And then the other two cables, one is a display port to display port, and the last one is an interesting USB Type-C to HDMI. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Dell OptiPlex 7070 Ultra. Look out for our full review on newsbytes.ph. We'll test it with a bunch of applications and see how it performs.